Okay, this weekend we're going to summarize the causes for the spread of Islam, the documents we looked at on Thursday, and also talk about Dar al-Islam, another characteristic of Islam. So first we're going to start with the spread of Islam. So there are three major reasons for the spread of Islamic civilization. The first is Arab military might. The second is treatment of conquered people. And the third is the message. So there we go. To explain Arab military might, there are many Arab victories under the first four caliphs. A caliph is an Islamic leader who leads, and they're said to be a descendant of Muhammad. So they're a religious leader, but also a political leader. And we'll go more into caliph later. But we looked at the massive expansion under the Umayyad dynasty, and in just the 100 years after Muhammad's death, remember he died in 632, and it's in 750 that the Umayyad dynasty falls, and at the point at which the Islamic Empire is at its height, is all under the first four caliphs. So there's a large spread in the Middle East. And then the Umayyad armies again continue conquest throughout Egypt, North Africa, and into Spain, as you can see on this map on your guided notes. So the Arab armies were so successful because the Byzantines and the Persians were quite weak at the time. Especially, they didn't have much military competition or combat. So it wasn't like the Byzantines and the Persians were building up their armies and inventing new weapons, because there was no need to until the Islamic empires came around. So the Islamic empires rose, and the Byzantine and Persian empires surrounding them were not ready for it, and it was easy to conquer the enemies. Additionally, the Byzantine people and the Persians welcomed these new conquerors. For one, Islam spread the message that everyone was equal in the eyes of God. And a lot of the Byzantines, especially, if you look at the Byzantine Empire on the map, if you can find Byzantium and Constantinople, that one point where the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea meet, the Byzantine Empire was on either side of this. So the Byzantine Empire is a Hellenistic empire based with Greek culture, but there are a very large number of Arabs from the Middle East with a very different culture living in the Byzantine Empire. And when the Muslims come to conquer, they realize they have much more in common with the Muslims and with the Byzantines, and really welcome this new leader. And the same is true with Persia. So that's another reason it was easy for the Arabs to outpower their competition militarily. The Arabs from Islam had better fighting methods. So they had camels and horses as a cavalry. Cavalry means like horseback or camelback. And these are supplied by the Bedouins. So remember, the Bedouins convert and they become really warriors of Islam. Also, the message of Islam united the armies. So everyone felt, we are Muslim, we have a common purpose, and this really encouraged the spread of religion. They were excited to get more followers. So here you can see the growth and the expansion. During Muhammad's time, it was just the Arabian Peninsula. During the rightly guided caliphate after Muhammad, we see some of Egypt and the Middle East, and then under the Umayyads, they spread into North Africa, some of Russia, and Spain. Another reason that it was so easy for Islam to spread was the treatment of conquered people, and part of that was that the people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, were allowed to practice their religion and follow their own laws. It was not a very forceful conquest. And so there was a lot of harmony among the groups Muslims conquered. It wasn't a strict or authoritarian regime. If you were not Muslim, you did have to pay a tax. However, we read this in our primary source document, the tribute, the tax people. The message was another reason that so many nomadic groups, especially the Bedouins, converted willingly to Islam. And part of it is it's so simple. It's straightforward. There are 5 pillars. It's 5 things you need to do in order to attain salvation. And that was very easy and direct for the converts. If you think about the polytheistic religions where people were constantly trying to please all these different gods and giving sacrifices, etc., there were so many gods in different directions. It was kind of complicated. And so Islam was really a much simpler and straightforward message. Another attractive element of Islam is that there's no religious hierarchy or class of priests. So Christianity does have a very clear religious hierarchy. There's the Pope, the cardinals, the deacons, the bishops, etc. And people can't directly talk to God, is the idea that they need to have this priest or this religious liaison to do it. And Islam does not see it that way, that the people are a direct link to God. And so that was very attractive as well in the message. Again, as you might have noticed in your reading, that at the time women had higher rights, and Islam really pushed equality, at least in principle, in theory. Over time, just like our other religions, this message does get distorted, and it's not necessarily true anymore. But at the foundation, in the first 100 years when Islam was spreading, equality was stressed, and that was really attractive to a lot of followers. Okay, our next objective is Dar al-Islam and the Sunni-Shia split. So this is the division I had been referring to that's coming up. So Dar al-Islam means the House of Islam, and it is the entire territory that is conquered by the Islamic empires. So any area that is Islam is part of Dar al-Islam. And the idea of Dar al-Islam is within this region, Muslims can enjoy peace and security. And there are common borders with other Muslim countries, and so it's very secure. You can see on this map an image of Dar al-Islam, and it's basically the Arab Empire. And so really the idea is that everyone follows the Sharia, so they have the same law. They all speak at least some Arabic, and so it's a very unifying idea, this Dar al-Islam, the House of Islam. So it's not a real house. Instead, it is territory that is conquered and majority Muslim. So here's the map that's on your picture. You can see the Arab Empire at its greatest extent. It was largest around 750. The purple, notice, is the Byzantine Empire. So that's what I was referring to earlier. You can see Constantinople on the map connecting the Mediterranean and the Black Seas. And so this is an image essentially of Dar al-Islam. And so Dar al-Islam is a really unifying idea for the Muslim people. They're unified culturally, economically, and it's a free trade zone. I'll get into that. So culturally, there's a common language, Arabic, and rules, the Islamic laws that are written in the Sharia. There's very similar architectural and artistic styles, which we'll look at this week. Similar cultural values develop in all the lands of the Muslim Empire, so be it education, gender roles, etc. But it makes it clear people aren't traveling throughout the Islamic Empire and wondering what comes next. Instead, they are unified and know what to expect. Economically, the Dar al-Islam becomes a free trade zone. So we have trans-Saharan trade, that which trans means across, and Sahara is the desert in North Africa. So there's trade even to south of the Sahara or sub-Saharan Africa. And we'll talk about more on that on Thursday, where our sub-Saharan African tribes, many of them converted to Islam. And then there was also Indian Ocean trade. Think about who the Muslims might trade with. Hopefully you came up with India and China and our other major civilizations on the Indian Ocean. So the Sunni-Shia split is a very important event because it has had lasting effects and really influences the Muslim world today. So there are two major sects of Islam that develop. The one is the Sunni and the other is the Shia or Shiite. You might have heard it referred to. And so the break between these two sects goes all the way back to Muhammad's death. And the conflict was who should rule after he died. He didn't name a successor. He died rather suddenly, and this created a lot of conflict. So Sunnis. Sunnis believe that the caliph, the religious and political leader, should be chosen by leaders of the Muslim community. So elected, basically, by the upper class Muslims. Whereas the Shia believe that only direct descendants of Muhammad should be caliph. So you had to have blood of Muhammad and be a descendant and heritage of the Prophet to lead. The Sunnis said the caliph should be a political leader only and not a religious authority, so not like the Pope. Whereas the Sunnis felt that because the caliph should be a descendant of the Prophet, they would be divinely inspired. So they would have some sort of connection to God and end up being the political and the religious authority for that reason. So that would be a theocracy. The Sunnis, after Muhammad's death, they supported Abu Bakr as the next caliph, and the Shia supported Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law. And this might be kind of confusing because he was not the son of Muhammad, but the philosophy was that Ali was married to Muhammad's daughter, who obviously the daughter couldn't be a leader, but that their child would be the descendant of Muhammad because it would have the daughter's blood. And so that was the idea behind making Ali the caliph. So what happens is that Abu Bakr's supporters defeated Ali, and Abu Bakr of the Sunni group becomes the second caliph. And then when Abu Bakr dies, Ali becomes the fourth caliph, but he is assassinated. So there's a lot of violence and competition between these two sects. And after Ali's death, the Umayyad family, the Sunnis, establish a dynasty. And so the Sunnis tend to get more support. So this division still exists today. It's actually a key cause of a lot of the issues in the Middle East. If you look at different nations, most are primarily Sunni or primarily Shia, and for that reason they don't get along and there's a lot of violence. And we'll go into that more this week. So both branches believe in the same one God. Okay, so what both branches have in common is that both still believe in the same God as Christianity, as Judaism, etc. Both follow the religious text, the Quran, and both make the Hajj. So again, we saw in the video that everyone was getting along, and that's because the Hajj is a time of peace. Divisions and differences are in religious practices. So prayer might be done differently. Ramadan might be done differently, the day-to-day, going to the mosque, etc. There are some different interpretations in the Sharia and the book of law, and there are differences in daily life and the role of women and gender roles and the family structure, etc. And about 90% of Muslims today are Sunni. So Sunni Muslims are the vast majority. And those Muslims that are Shia are primarily consolidated into just a couple different countries. And a part of that is because at the very beginning, the Sunnis really gained momentum under the Umayyad dynasty, and so many more Sunnis persisted. That's all on the Sunni-Shia split. I really encourage you to look into some extra credit articles and look at current events of what might be going on in the Middle East and any connections to this division, because that's a hot topic today. So I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday.